Good morning. We will now have the opening ceremonies of the 65th Biennial National Conference of the Grand Lodge Fraternal Order. Please take your seats. I ask everyone to please rise as Chaplain Phil Wiggins offers us in prayer.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. I'd like to just make a couple of announcements for you this morning. We've got some people we'd like for all of us to lift up to the Lord in prayer. Vic Brock, who is Texas Lodge 112 charter member and past state president of Municipal Police Association, and served with St. Angelo PD, traveling on the way here to the conference, had a heart attack on the plane, and some of the fellow officers that were there did CPR until the plane made an emergency landing, and he did not survive that. So we want to remember his family and the department in our prayers. Also yesterday in Michigan, Deputy Ryan Proxmire with Kalamazoo Sheriff's Department in Michigan was shot and killed in pursuit. I understand that he was pursuing a suspect, and the suspect turned in his car and shot out the window, shot outside the window and hit the officer, and he was killed in the line of duty. He was 40 years old, had 9 years of service, and left behind a wife and 5 children. So we certainly want to remember them in prayer this morning. Let's go to the Lord now. Our gracious God and Father, we love you, Lord, and just thank you for this opportunity that you've given to us to be able to lift up our brothers and sisters and family members that are hurting due to tragic deaths through sickness, and Father, especially those that we've lost through COVID. Father, we just pray that you be with those families and watch over them and give them strength during this time. And Father, today is a great day for us as we as a National Fraternal Order of Police are able to gather again in opening of our conference, and we just rejoice in this fact that we're able to come together in person and renew friendships and fellowships and conduct the business that needs to be handled on the floor today. Father, we just pray for those that will be leading this conference today. We ask that you give them words of wisdom, speak through them, Father, to guide and direct us as we try to serve our law enforcement across the country the best way that we can, and that is with your help and your strength. And Father, I just want to say thank you too for the National Fraternal Order of Police and the importance they see in the decisions they make to keep you, Father, in just look at you for help and guidance and strength as they make these important decisions. Now be with us, Lord, as we go through this conference this week. Pray for those that will be coming to speak and to share, that you guide and direct them as well. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Honor Guard, post.
We will now have the presentation of colors by the Indiana Fraternal Order of Police, Multi-Agency Color Guard. It'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice President Joe Grimaldi.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I ask all the delegates to join us in singing the national anthem, which will be led by Sergeant Sanford Swanson with the West Lafayette Lodge here in Indiana. And a sign language will be provided by Lieutenant Virginia Fedor.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Can we have another round of applause for the multi-agency honor guard and Sergeant Swanson? Please be seated. Brothers and sisters, the very freedoms we as Americans enjoy are often taken for granted. Yet we all know that freedom is not free. Our freedom and our way of life was bought and paid for by the men and women of our United States military, many who have given their lives in the honor of our country. If you have served in the armed forces, or if you're currently serving, would you please rise at this time and allow your peers to thank you for your service. Thank you. Brothers and sisters, as I gaze out amongst this delegation in this large room, I am in complete awe. For each of you represent all that is good in America. These past 18 months have been a never-ending, ever-changing challenge that has tested each of us to the core. Yet, in the midst of uncertainty, we have thrived, unwavering in our commitment to stand guard on a fragile line between order and chaos in communities all across America. These challenging times before us have tested our character, yet we have not backed down. It has tested our perseverance, yet we're still here. It has tested our profession, yet we're still strong. We're FOP strong. As we begin the 65th Biennial Conference of the National Fraternal Order of Police, I could not be prouder of the hard work of our delegation, of our members, of our leadership, and of our staff. I can't wait to share with you all of the milestones and successes that your National Fraternal Order of Police has accomplished during these unprecedented times. Before we introduce our guest speakers, I would like to recognize someone who is here with us today attending his very first conference. And I hope this will be the first of many more conferences. And that is Will Kinzel, the Vice President of Molson Coors, LLC, brewers of Coors, Miller, and many fine beers. Over the years, Molson Coors has been the strongest and most reliable partner of the Fraternal Order of Police and has contributed over $1.5 million in support of honoring our fallen members. And if that's not enough, over the years, he's donated enough beer for FOP events to float a battleship. And that is why, brothers and sisters, that the FOP voted Miller Lite as the official beer of the FOP some 20 years ago, and we've never regretted it. Will, thank you. Brothers and sisters, before we start this conference, let's reflect on those that we've lost during these devastating times. We all know someone who holds someone dear to us that has passed since we last met. We have lost many lodge leaders and friends during this time. We've also lost 537 officers to COVID-19 across this country. While each deserves to be recognized for their sacrifice, and it's difficult to list them all with any accuracy. For this reason, I wish to recognize those who are active or past National Executive Board members of the Fraternal Order of Police and active National Committee members who have passed since our last conference. Brother Tommy Tizard, the National Trustee from Louisiana. Past Chairman of Trustees, Joe Perkins from Oklahoma. Past National Treasurer, Bill Nolan from Illinois. Active Wellness Committee member, Mike Violette from Colorado. And active Compliance and Audit Committee member, Wayne Winkler from New Jersey. I ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence for our fallen brothers. Thank you. A lot of work goes into hosting a conference this size. Having hosted 2 national conferences in my home state, I know firsthand the dedication required by a small army when you decide to invite 6,000 of your closest friends over for a week. The Indiana State Lodge and Indianapolis Lodge 86 has planned for this meeting for 4 years in some of the most difficult times. And I'm certain that our brothers and sisters from Indiana have done an awesome job in preparing for what we already know is one awesome conference. I know their dedication, and I have no doubt that we're going to have a great time here in Indiana. I'd like to thank Conference Chairman Danny Overly, who you'll see in the backgrounds because he doesn't like coming on the stage. Also Bill Owensby and Lodge 86 President Rick Schneider, and all of the members of the Indiana State Lodge for their hard work and planning for what promises to be an amazing event. It is now my honor to recognize State President Bill Owensby to give remarks and to assist in introducing our speakers this morning. Brother Owensby.
Well, this day has been a long time coming. And you've heard for years now how the National FOP is the largest law enforcement voice in America. Behind me on the stage is the governor of the state of Indiana, the mayor of the city of Indianapolis, and many surrounding agency chiefs that will be introduced here by Rick in just a few minutes. I want you to show them that we are the largest voice of law enforcement in America. Good morning. Way to go. I'd like to recognize, and you'll probably hear this a lot, but it's for a reason. I sat where you sat, or where you're sitting now, for many, many years, and heard the various conference committee chairs talk about their volunteers and how the conference couldn't be done without volunteers. I am here to tell you that is an absolute fact. And you'll hear more about that from Rick, President Snyder from Lodge 86, but our volunteers, our retirees, and our active officers who are active in the FOP, and even some that aren't active in the FOP but are FOP members, have stepped up to the plate to make sure that Indianapolis is showcased and the Indiana FOP is showcased, and I think they have done a fantastic job. You guys tell me in a couple days what you think, but I think they've done a fantastic job. Now, I'd like to welcome you to Indiana. I'm born and raised Indianapolis native. I retired after 35 years from the Indianapolis Police Department, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, and I'm proud of that. I'd like to welcome you to the Indiana Convention Center, whose motto is, "Yes, you'll get your steps in." And I'm honored to introduce the next speaker, the next guest. And I know that a lot of you from our travels all over the country and the labor seminars wish you had a governor who was accessible. Wish you had a governor that was vocal in his support of not just police, but even the firefighter guys. I know we don't care about the firefighter guys, I get that. But he's vocal in support of first responders. And I know that you wish you had a governor that was there before the legislative session, during the legislative session, and after the legislative session. And I know you wish you had a governor that had an open door policy whenever you called and needed to sit down and talk. Well, I'm here to tell you, I got a guy. The 51st governor of the state of Indiana, who has shown me his mettle. He shows up at line of duty funerals, unannounced, not for a photo op. He cries with the survivors' families. He's sincere. He is there for us when we need legislative issues addressed. He's been there vocally supporting law enforcement pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, and during all of the defund and the social issues. And it's my honor to introduce to you the 51st governor of the state of Indiana, Eric Holcomb.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Bill, for that overly generous introduction. I have to think of a way to get you back for that. Pat, thank you, and to your entire leadership team for the vital work that you do as police officers representing police officers. I know this order has been faithfully conducting and carrying out your mission for 106 years and counting, and I think I've got to say, I've never felt safer in my life than I do right now. I don't say that lightly. The superintendent of our state police, Doug Carter, knows this well, as do folks from Indiana. My wife, Janet, is a certified handgun shooting and safety instructor. She goes to Fort Bragg to watch sniper competitions, and she's gone elk hunting with the First Lady of Wyoming, and I can tell you I sleep well at night. And you guessed it, we do not argue. But let me start by echoing what Bill said and share a good morning and a welcome to the state of Indiana and to what we view as the heart of the heartland. This is, I'm told, the 6th time out of 65 that the FOP has given us the privilege to host you, and that's a pretty good batting average, I guess, but we'd like to up that and have you return. I'm sure Mayor Hogsett is going to entice you to come back, whether it's for work or for play. But I've been looking forward to this since Bill and I were together just a few months ago at our state FOP conference, which had an equally impressive turnout. We were down in a town called French Lick, and that is a town in the state of Indiana, French Lick. It's got a resort and a casino. I can give you more details if you desire to learn more. But first, as it was then and is now, this word gets thrown around a lot. But it is an honor to be in this room with you, knowing the road, your life's journey that has taken you to get here to our home state. And to let you know, without any doubt, without any question, that Hoosiers back the blue. And it is great to have the blue back in Indiana. It's also my hope, and it should go without being said, that you know that we know, and we don't take for granted for one nanosecond what you go through each and every day, physically, mentally, that you drop everything at a moment's notice, all hours of the day, into the night, wee hours of the morning, and you do that to keep this society stitched together. And I know it's a profession, but it's so much more than that. It's got to be so much more than that. Every time I talk to someone who wears the uniform, it is a passion and a calling. And there are times when stories are shared with me that leave scars. It is beyond me to know just how, other than it is this calling. And I just thank God that you answered that call for us, that you're literally the ones that run in when others are running away. You're literally the ones that are racing to the side of your neighbors, our neighbors, in their darkest hour, in their days of greatest need. Even, again, we know this, while you're dealing with your own issues. And you're the ones that do it no matter how many obstacles are in the way. And I just, again, could not articulate how incredibly grateful we are for what you do every single day, for that heroism, for the sacrifices, for the sacrifices your family makes every single day when that door opens and you walk out. And that sigh of relief when you walk back in. You do it with such grace, under fire, and during a very challenging time. When people are challenging even the uniform and what you stand for, law and order, respect, service. I think about, Bill joked about the fire service. I think about everything that is thrown your way. And how you just mow it down no matter what the circumstance, whether it calls for a therapist, whether it calls for a counselor, whether it calls for going into a fire. We just had a Lieutenant McClee up in Porter County, Indiana, on our northern border, who was the first to arrive after a gas explosion. First to arrive. What did he do? Went straight in, understood there was a small girl inside, went straight in and got her out, not knowing if there was others, but I'm sure saved additional lives, because safely Lieutenant McClee didn't hesitate. He did what needed to be done on the scene at that moment. And that's just obviously the tip of the iceberg. The mayor of Lawrence is here, the mayor of Indianapolis is here, Rick Snyder. I mean, when I hear the stories that they share, when our state superintendent, Doug Carter, keeps me informed at any hour. His phone's never off, obviously, you know that. About what's going on in 92 of our counties. This is, every day is just the tip of the iceberg of what we know. We could go on for the rest of the day sharing stories, rest of this conference, rest of this year for that matter. But I think it's in that spirit, that service above self, which is that common thread that keeps this blue line strong, even when, as I mentioned, others disrespect or take for granted just how thin that line is. And I take it upon myself, and I think I could speak for some other elected officials on this stage. We see it as our job, the job where we sit in an office in a leather chair with air conditioning, to make sure that you have the resources that you need to carry out those at times heroic acts at a moment's notice. And I'm proud of the way the state of Indiana has responded to these times. I'm proud of the fact to stand next to Bill and the FOP and to listen to what you need, what's going to make a difference, a positive difference. That's why, and I won't give you all of it, but that's why we signed a law recently to make sure that COVID was covered for officers to qualify for line of duty benefits if they get COVID, because some of these things are, they're not just the seen things that we have to worry about, they're the unseen things. And that's why we just recently passed, and Superintendent Carter and I will later be out at our Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, where we've devoted another $70 million to make sure that upgrades are there for training and resources for the officers that want to, that have dreamt about it time since they could walk, joining your ranks. We got bipartisan support for that, unanimous. When we first came in, we took a look around, and again, we listened. We passed a 24% pay increase for state troopers in the state of Indiana, because we looked around and we said, is this something that's getting in our way? I mean, not only did it's deserved, but we want to attract more brothers and sisters in your ranks to our state. And I couldn't, again, be more proud of the way we collaborated and the way we worked together. Mayor of Indianapolis just likewise recently passed a budget, and I won't go into your budget, Mayor, but it's just so heartening to see the devotion put forward. We also included in our package to build a new state police lab. You know how overtaxed our state police labs are. We're not only building new labs, we're upgrading the labs that we have so that we can efficiently equip you with the information, that technical information that you need to do your job. We're empowering more. We learned about this. We're empowering more officers to be equipped with body cams, including our state police, because we learned this could help us, our men and women in uniform, do our jobs in training and in some other areas. I won't drone on and on, but I hope you've received my profuse and deep gratitude for what you do and how proud we are of how you do it under that immense pressure that so few of us can relate to. As a free people in this nation governed by laws, I fully understand that this is a debt that we can never fully repay. But we're going to keep trying so that you can hold that line and preserve peace, so that we are fortunate enough to avoid that chaos that comes knocking on your door when you face danger day in and day out, when you stand between good challenged by evil, when you stand for that law and order as the ultimate safeguard of our freedom. And this is a state that stands with you. So on behalf of 6.8 million Hoosiers, thank you again for what you do and how you do it to protect our neighbors and your neighbors in the big cities like where we find ourselves today to those very small one-dot communities where our neighbors face challenges as well. How you do it makes the difference. Not a difference, but the difference. And my only other hope or wish, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't go here for 10 seconds, is to ask you to enjoy your time while you're here in the state of Indiana. It's easy to do. We've got a lot going on. The mayor can tell you we just hosted 68 teams, all of March Madness right here, literally. In one state, we followed that up with the biggest sporting event on planet Earth, the Indy 500. We'll be hosting the college football championship game in January. We want you and your families to be able to enjoy life as well, just as you make sure that we can. And if you are so inclined and you're looking for a change of scenery, Superintendent Doug Carter has taken names, and we'd love you to have join our ranks. May God bless you, what you do, and the great nation of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Again, it's my honor to introduce to you the mayor of the city of Indianapolis. I was transitioning out of my longtime position as Lodge 86 president as he was campaigning. And as you know, obviously the lodge presidents work very closely, or try to work very closely, with their city county councils and their mayors. So I didn't have the opportunity to ever work with Mayor Hogsett, but Rick has, and I'm really going to try not to steal any of Rick's thunder here. They enjoy a very candid and close relationship. I can tell you he campaigned, he's in his second term, he campaigned in his first term to hire 500 officers in 4 years. And you know what? He did it. Hired more than that in 4 years. He just introduced the last few days a budget not to defund the police, but to increase the funding for the police department and to increase hiring for the police department. That is, I know, somewhat of a rarity for some of the people in this room, but again, we had a tragic line of duty death in April of last year during the COVID thing, and a female officer was shot and killed in the line of duty, and we were at our wits' end as to how to properly honor her and her family. And Mayor Hogsett stepped up to the plate. The IMS stepped up to the plate. Rick may touch on this. But they stepped up to the plate to properly honor her sacrifice, and her survivors, her loved ones. And we are eternally grateful for that. And I'd like for you to please welcome the mayor of the city of Indianapolis, Joe Hogsett.
Well, welcome to Indianapolis. I'm going to go off script already because I can't pass it up. The governor mentioned the fact that one of our convention facilities that is often used, that doesn't happen to be in Indianapolis, is a town in Indiana called French Lick, home of Larry Bird. Former Secretary of State of the state of Indiana, a guy by the name of Larry Conrad, used to go before conventions like the one we're having today. When he was asked to talk about the state of Indiana, he would say the following: Indiana is different than any other state in the Union. Indiana is the only state where South Bend is in the north, North Vernon is in the south, and French Lick ain't anywhere near as exciting as it sounds. So, welcome to Indianapolis. As the governor mentioned, I'm struck today, as I am nearly every day I've served as mayor, by the admiration that I hold for anyone committed to protection, to duty, to honor, to service, especially in times like these. As we continue through the pandemic, we also, frankly, battle a national surge in gun violence, deadly crime. And Indianapolis has not been spared. Even prior to 2020, as Bill was kind enough to mention, we were committed to growing our police force. We were committed to returning to community-based neighborhood beats. We were committed to seeking the most efficient and effective outcomes that would reduce crime. However, after 2020, we are providing historic levels of funding for more police officers. We are providing historic levels of funding to expand our civilian law enforcement teams so that our sworn officers are not stuck with traffic runs and paperwork. Our police departments cannot and should not shoulder the entire burden of public health and safety, and that's why we are also making unprecedented local investments in combating the causes of crime, like poverty, like lack of education, like mental health, mental well-being. In other words, preventing violent crime before it happens, whenever and however we can do that. Yet, the demands and expectations our city has of its police force are very high. And I know every officer wants it that way. They expect it to be that way. That is what draws them to law enforcement. And that's why I'm glad our city can be the one to host this biennial conference, the first since the start of the pandemic. And as mayor, what a beautiful sight this is. What a beautiful sight this is. So my thanks to Patrick Yos and the National Fraternal Order of Police. I'd also like to recognize our local president of the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 86, Rick Snyder. Rick, stand up. Rick yells at me all the time because he's doing his job. And I'm proud of him for it. Discussions and elections held here this week will help shape public safety in an era of reemergence for our country. And I am deeply honored that the discussions that take place here this week in the crossroads of America, in the city of Indianapolis, will lead us out of the pandemic better than we were before the pandemic. I cannot thank you enough for coming to Indianapolis for this national convention. And I'll leave you with this. I would not be a good mayor if I didn't close by saying, have a good time. enjoy this city. Embrace the welcome that I hope you feel here. And spend lots of money. God bless you all.
As I alluded to a little bit ago in talking about the volunteers, the last few days, I personally have received many handshakes and pats on the back and congratulations for a job well done in planning this conference and putting this on and hosting it. But I've got to tell you, it's not me. I will certainly take the handshakes and the pats on the back and the kind words, and I will pass them on. It is my lodge, my lodge that is hosting this, but I was a small part of planning and putting this conference on. The next speaker is the guy driving the train. The next speaker is the guy that had this vision a few years ago. Whether it was a good one or not remains to be seen. But he's the one that had this vision a few years ago. He's the one that talked us into, the right reasons to have this conference and to put this conference on. And he's the one driving this train, and he's the one you guys should be patting on the back and shaking his hand and telling him thank you, because I promise you he'll pass that on to the right people and the volunteers, who, by the way, are down in the hall in those rooms back there. You want to stick your head in there sometime, the command center and the other rooms, the auxiliary rooms and all that, and just tell them thanks. Just tell them, appreciate you guys putting this on, and thanks for showing us a good time, because they will really appreciate it. And just remember, a lot of those volunteers are retirees, and that's what we really hang our hat on. Is really a pretty cool idea. So with that, I'd like to introduce my friend, the Lodge, Indianapolis Lodge 86 President, Rick Snyder.
Well, good morning, sisters and brothers. Good morning. I can't tell you how pleased we are to have you here. This is not just a vision, but a dream come true for all of us. This started nearly 6 years ago for our Indianapolis and Indiana lodges. And let me assure you, we have pulled out all the stops to make this a wonderful week for you. 6 years in the making for this to be. Our goal is to be one of the best national conferences you've ever attended. And it would not be possible without all of our volunteers and staff, especially at our local lodge. Our staff there, I always say, I would put them up against any other staff in the nation. They are just wonderful, wonderful folks. And I know all of you feel that way about your, not staff, but volunteers and members as well. And that's what makes this order the wonderful organization that it is. I was in complete agreement with Bill, and I just always like to say, if you have a wonderful time during your stay here, please let every volunteer, Indianapolis FOP member know that. Thank them and show your appreciation to them. If there is anything that does not go well, or there's a problem or an issue, please tell me, and we will get that remedied. It struck me when we listened to the national anthem this morning, and a wonderful job that was. For the first time, a powerful moment struck me with the line that we all sing all the time, and I found that national anthem means more and more as of late. It struck me that line. Our flag was still there. And I thought to myself, not only is that powerful, but it reminded me, we're still here. After everything we've been through, all the attacks, ambushes, challenges, pandemic, riots, we are still here. The American law enforcement officer remains standing the line, and we will continue to do so because we are called to love God, something bigger than ourselves, and to love our neighbor, even if that means laying down our life for them. And we will never, ever waver in that. Our officer, Breanne Leith, who was killed in the line of duty last year, demonstrated that powerfully to our community. And we're going to talk more about her legacy tomorrow. But just like all the officers you have lost, all the officers we have lost, this conference ultimately is dedicated to them. Going to be introducing our next speaker, which is the Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter. He is a fierce, staunch advocate for the American law enforcement officer, not just here in our state, but across the country. And I have to share with you, for everything we've been through in the last 2 years, he has consistently reached out directly to me and many others, expressing his support, his encouragement, and his steadfast commitment to ensure the safety of our officers and their families. And we couldn't have a better friend in that position, and I know we'll have a great friend long after that. And I just want to say he is my dear friend. To our mayor, I want to thank you again for your words. I don't want to forget this. We all have some challenging mayors in our country. We all know that. But the one thing that is different here in Indianapolis, the secret behind all this, is that even in all of our disagreements, public debates, and discussions, they're founded on principles, not on personalities. And what most don't know is the reason why we continue moving our city forward, even at points of disagreement, is because consistently we quietly pray to our Heavenly Father together. We keep first things first. And I'm never ashamed to share that with anybody. So if I could, the other man that I consistently pray with, and we pray together, is our Indiana State Police Superintendent, Doug Carter. Sir?
I don't think in my nearly 40-year career I've ever had the ability to stand in front of the most influential law enforcement leaders and members of agencies around this country as I do right now. Can everybody hear in the back? Because behind us, we can't hardly make out a word. Okay, good. We can get through the trooper jokes. We can talk about those tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, whenever. My boss, Eric Holcomb, has left, so I get to say anything I want to. There's not a more supportive governor in this country than Eric Holcomb to public safety right here in Indiana. I've been in this role for almost 9 years now. And we found ourselves certainly at a crossroads. Before I talk about that for just a few minutes, though, I want to talk about the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. This partnership that we have with them, and you hear it all over the country, I know you do, sets the bar. We have troopers in the city all hours of the day and night, walking streets and alleys and standing with and behind some of the finest law enforcement officers that this planet knows. The death, dying, destruction, hurt, pain, and sorrow is real. But through such adversity, they and you charge on. I get a name the list of names every single month of homicide victims, and I read every single one of them in support of those families that are left behind. To appreciate the IMPD and police agencies all over this state that do that kind of work every single day. So when Rick Snyder called, who, by the way, is one of my dearest friends as well, both he and Bill Owensby are wonderful, wonderful people. I said, who said no, they couldn't be here? And they said, nobody, so here I am. I've got to take just this opportunity. Now is our time. Now is our time. We've all been through a period of time over the course of the last 15 months that none of us could have predicted. And you know, one of the things that I really realized throughout that period of time is everybody doesn't look like me. And I am talking about the color of my skin. I met with hundreds of members of Indiana State Police and our minority population. And a trooper raised his hand and he said to me, Superintendent, when was the last time you were in a room and no one looked like you? I'll never forget the moment in time because it changed my life. Since that time, I've been committed, as many, many of you have, to say, let's hit the reset button. I heard Chief Flynn from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, say one time when he was responding to the death of a child, and he was under perpetual criticism, and he finally said, stop it. We are not without sin. Another defining moment for me. We in this profession are not without sin. But we're not bad people either. So I believe now is our time. Are we going to respond to this like we did 30 years ago, and I remember it vividly, during the riots of South Central Los Angeles and Rodney King, the trial of O.J. Simpson, the list can go on and on and on, at a time that was clearly defining for our profession. And we closed our citizens off then. Let's not do that again. I'm looking forward to the next generation. As I sunset in my career, I'm looking forward to the next generation. But damn it, we got to apologize to them too. And then we hope in the next 30 or 35 years, maybe they won't have these same challenges. If anybody in this country can change the perception of policing, it's you. It's you. I don't understand the hate, the violence, the rhetoric, and all the things that happen throughout the course of our days, and I follow what happens around this country almost as close as I follow what happens here in Indiana. And it is not okay. Ella French, rest in peace. Bree Leith, IMPD, killed in the line of duty in April of 2020. You see, what happens is we would die for someone that hates who we are. You would die for someone that hates who you are. Now is our time. not next week. And we have nothing and no control over yesterday. So as I stand here, some kid from northwestern Indiana, that somehow along the way, this guy named Mike Pence changed my life forever some 9 years ago, and the governor of Indiana kept me, to be able to stand in front of you at this moment in our history is a moment and a time I will never, ever forget. May God give you peace. May his light of faith shine on you always. And one day we'll all meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Carter. I'd next like to call up the Chief of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, Randy Taylor, who is a man I have worked with my entire career. He has risen through the ranks to his current position, and he has been leading our department during some of the most challenging times in our profession. And when we finalized our plans for this event here in our city, he made clear that our department would be here to facilitate this, to protect you while you can take a break and focus on the business of the day and return you safely back to your families. So I want to thank him and welcome him to the podium, Chief of Police Randy Taylor.
I will tell you, I hope that you have an opportunity to see a crowd like this. It's really impressive, and it's really an honor to be in front of you today. So when I started my law enforcement career some 34 years ago, the vehicle of choice for my department was a Dodge Diplomat. The weapon I was issued was a .38 Special. And there was a billy club. No one had heard of tasers or body cameras or anything like that. It's been a long journey, but it's been a great one. But as chief, things sometimes hit you a little different. So just yesterday, I'm at church, and after church is over and we're fellowshipping, two members come up to me and they say, "Chief, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for what you've had to go through." And then later on, when my wife and I go out to dinner, people recognize me and they say the same thing. "Chief, so sorry for what you're going through. Wouldn't want your job for anything." And as I thought about what they said, I wasn't quite sure how to take that, really. I'm not ashamed of the work I do. I don't feel less of a chief because what I've dealt with, because I know that myself and you, we're cut a little different. We battle every day. Sure, we've dealt with officer deaths, we've dealt with pandemics, we've dealt with riots, we've dealt with an uprising that appears to be against law enforcement as a whole. But the one thing I know, I'll still be here. My staff and officers with the IMPD will still be here, and I know you'll be here. You are truly champions, and I hope you know that. I hope you look at yourselves as that way, because you are. You do things that no one else would do, and you don't complain about it. You just do it. It's because it's the way you're made. It's It's because it's your calling. Maya Angelou said, in a quote, she said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." When I was about 10 years old, it was just me and my mom. My father had died recently, and my mom was still a little bit upset. And we got into a car accident. And it wasn't bad. No one was truly injured. But I remember as the officers were taking the report, one officer came back to check on me in the car. And he said, "Partner, how are you doing?" Well, I said, I'm fine. But it didn't stop there. He stayed with me and talked to me about all kinds of stuff until the report was taken and until we were able to leave. Now, I don't know if that's where my appreciation for law enforcement started, but that's the first time I remember having a conversation with an officer. And it was a good one, because that officer made me feel like I was important and that I meant something. Recently, in the last couple months, I was told of an article that existed in my hometown newspaper in Champaign, Illinois, about a young lady who brought my name up during the article. Come to find out, I was her DARE instructor when she was in 5th grade. Now, she'd gone on to become a police officer herself. And she said that I was one of the motivating factors. And I spoke to her for 20 plus years, Samantha. But we've since spoken. And it's funny how conversations that you've had, maybe even decades ago, you don't realize how it influences people. You're influencing people with the conversations you have. Maya Angelou said, "They don't forget how you made them feel." And for that young lady at that particular time, our conversation was such that she felt like I cared for her, which she was correct, but she understood it. And it motivated her to become a police officer herself. You never know. You never know what your influence is going to be. Hopefully, it's always for the positive. But I think as police officers, we have to be careful. We have to watch ourselves. We all have bad days from time to time. But understand how you're influencing those people you come in with. Maybe it's your family members, maybe it's just the general public. Honestly, my hope for you during this conference is that for the days that you're here, I hope you know and I hope you feel that you're respected, that you're honored, that you're appreciated for all that you do and all that you are. You'll always be champions in my mind. You're champions in a lot of the public's mind. But I know what you go through. We know that only those of us who wear the badge and who've worked the late night shifts and done all the dirty work, we know what it's like to be cops. Public doesn't always know that. Sometimes they don't appreciate it. But I know. Your chiefs and your other staff members, your coworkers, they know what you mean and what you are. Never forget that. It's an honorable profession. And we do it with honor. May God bless you. May God keep you all of your days. Welcome to Indianapolis. I hope you enjoy it. We're here for you for whatever you need, but thank you.
Our final speaker Our final speaker is Chief of Police Dave Hoffman. He's the chief of the Lawrence Police Department, which is an adjoining city to our great city of Indianapolis. He's a former retired IMPD officer who's gone on to serve for the Lawrence Police Department in a chief's capacity. He is here representing 17 different law enforcement agencies and their chiefs to welcome all of you to Indianapolis. If I could have Chief Hoffman come forward, who's going to be joined by all of our surrounding chiefs. This may be the first time this has happened, but we have all these chiefs that are going to stand in unison to say that they support you, us, the rank and file of law enforcement, and the Fraternal Order of Police. Chief Hoffman.
I learned early on, when this event was being planned, that I was going to be the last person standing between you and your first break. So I called for backup. The other departments represented here by their chiefs surround Indianapolis, and we always stand prepared to collaborate with and assist Indianapolis and each other at a moment's notice. It's what we do. It's what you do. We all welcome and appreciate all of you and your dedication to your officers, our officers. Cities from A to Z are represented here. Avon, Indiana. Zionsville, Beech Grove, Carmel, Cumberland, Fishers, Greenwood, McCordsville, Noblesville, Plainfield, and two major campuses of Indiana University and Butler University. And we all welcome you to Indiana, and we thank you for your attendance. My fellow chiefs of police and I are here to demonstrate to you, by our mere presence, our collective support for the vital role the FOP plays in serving, defending, uplifting, and honoring our great, brave, professional men and women that you all represent so well every single day, every single night across this great nation. The role of law enforcement in our society has never been more critical than now. So too are the invaluable working relationships and activities of our Fraternal Order of Police lodges, from the grassroots support of local lodges to state lodges working on enacting legislation to keep our members safe, peer support teams, memorial teams, legal defense, to our national lodge, giving us a voice in Washington. The importance of the FOP and every single person in this room has never been more important to our profession. Your presence here is indicative of the ongoing commitment that we all share in continuing this vital function and the mission of the Fraternal Order of Police. I thank you all. Like all the other speakers, I will encourage you to attend or to enjoy this conference and all it has to offer. And if Mayor Hogsett won't mind, I will take a minute and invite you to visit one of our nearby cities and towns while you're here. Each one is maybe 20, 25 minutes away. Grab an Uber, come visit our towns, and thank you all so much.
Thank you, Chief Hoffman. Finally, Mr. President, we wanted to close this welcoming ceremony by being joined by all of our surrounding chiefs of police. If I could have Mayor Hogsett step forward, Mayor Collier from Lawrence, Indiana, step forward. We want to collectively present to you, as a representative of our over 350,000 law enforcement officers and their families in the National FOP, the commemorative Indianapolis 2021 gold badge, which has the logo on it, which is a commemorative badge, which all of you have the opportunity to obtain in our merchandise room, the Indy 2021 merchandise room, outside these doors to the right. But here's the significance. We want you to have this as our leader of the organization that is undoubtedly the voice of law enforcement for the United States of America and beyond. And as such, this is badge 0001, and we want you to have that on behalf of our city. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you to all of you. Welcome to Indy. It's unclipped. Don't stab yourself.
Governor, Mr. Mayor, distinguished colleagues, chiefs, thank you very much for awesome Hoosier hospitality. We're very much grateful and excited to be here and appreciate all of the hard work all of you do representing law enforcement across this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now do the call of our memorial service. I call up Linda Henney, President of the National Auxiliary. Linda?
Good morning. As we pause for a few moments to remember those brothers and sisters who have gone before us and who are in our hearts, I want to introduce the Chairman of the Trustees of the National Auxiliary, Linda Lehman.
Good morning. I would like to welcome Sergeant Sanford Swanson from the West Lafayette Lodge forward to start this morning's service.
God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Oh, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Oh, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Oh, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me.
We set aside these moments to remember, and we set aside these moments to come together as a law enforcement family to provide comfort and support to one another. We set aside these moments to pay respect to the memory of our departed brothers and sisters.
Life is but a stopping place, a pause in what's to be, a resting place along the road to sweet eternity. We all have different journeys, different paths along the way. We all were meant to learn some things, but never meant to stay. Our destination is a place far greater than we know. For some, the journey's quicker, for some, the journey's slow. And when the journey finally ends, we'll claim a great reward and find an everlasting peace together with the Lord.
Alabama.
I came by today to see.
Alaska.
Oh, I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time
Arizona.
I've held you and never let go. Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering. I lie in the dark just asking.
Arkansas.
I've always been told you won't be called home until it's your time. I guess heaven was
California.
needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what
Colorado.
you believe and follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion
Connecticut.
I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you.
Delaware.
I remember the last time I saw you. Oh, you held your head up proud.
District of Columbia.
I laughed inside when I saw how you were standing out in the crowd. You're
Florida.
such a part of who I am. Now that part
Georgia.
Heaven needing you more, 'cause heaven was needing a hero. Somebody just
Hawaii.
like brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through.
Idaho.
Try to make it make sense in my mind. The only conclusion I come to is a heaven
Illinois.
was needing a hero like you. Yes, heaven was needing a hero.
Indiana.
That's
Iowa. Kansas. Kentucky. Louisiana. Maine. Maryland. Massachusetts. Michigan. Minnesota. Mississippi. Missouri. Montana. Nebraska. Nevada. Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma,
Surrounded by your glory, wonder will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in all of you be still? Will I still
Oregon,
in your presence? To my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine.
Pennsylvania,
I can only imagine when that day comes, when I find myself standing
Rhode Island,
I can only imagine when all I will do is forever, forever worship you. I can only imagine.
South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington.
I can only imagine.
West Virginia.
I came by today to see you.
Wisconsin.
Had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time, I'd have held you and never let go.
Wyoming.
Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering. I lie in the dark, just asking why. I've always been told you won't
Federal.
be called home until it's your time. I guess heaven was needing a hero.
Canada.
Somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through.
Ireland.
When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is heaven was needing a hero.
At this time, I would like to ask President Yos and President Henney to place two final carnations. The first for all disabled and injured officers, and the second for all those officers still serving. We will now have the final salute with the playing of taps. We pledge to never forget. You have witnessed a flower being placed in honor of our brothers and sisters. As we go back to our homes, back to our daily workplaces and our work assignments, may we be true and faithful to each other and to their memory. To those of you still serving to keep our streets and our homes safe, we say thank you, and we will continue to pray for your safety. Please join me in prayer as I offer the National Police Prayer. Almighty God, we ask thy blessings and guidance upon all law enforcement officers engaged in the protection of our citizens. Be with them in their lonely tours of duty while patrolling the busy streets of our cities and the remote areas of our country. Give them the blessings of your wisdom to know and to do what is right, to temper their actions with mercy and justice. And when their tours are complete and the day is over, guide them safely home to their loved ones. We also ask thy blessings and eternal rest to all of our brothers and sisters who have sacrificed their lives in the performance of their duties. Give to their loved ones the peace and the strength to bear the anguish of their loss. Remove all resentment from their hearts, knowing that eternal peace and rest will abide over their departed loved ones forever. This we beg in thy name, forever and ever, amen. Thank you. This concludes the 2021 Peace Officers Memorial Service. Thank you.
Please join me in recognizing our auxiliary and the awesome work that they do in support of our effort. Brothers and sisters, we stand in recess for 30 minutes. We will clear the hall at this time. Please take a few moments, pass over by the expo, but we will start sharply in 30 minutes. Please be back in your seats. We have a very, very busy agenda.